We're gonna talk about how to find your personal style and expressing yourself through your own aesthetic right now. Hello and welcome to the Queendom. I'm Sarah Engel, and today I'm really excited about this. We're gonna talk about how to find and express your personal style. And I don't mean personal style necessarily just in like the clothing that you wear, though that is part of it, but it's kind of like everything, like what you choose to have around you, just the aesthetics of it all. I still have yet to do an apartment tour. I need to do that sometime very soon, but I just keep having things I want to add and change to it, and I'm like, no, not yet. But if you've seen pieces of my apartment in, for example, my morning routine video, I know shows a lot of it, you'll see that I have a very distinct point of view in everything that I have around me. Even here, like look at the set, there's a very distinct point of view.
From a certain point of view.
I'm particularly excited about this lately because I read this book called Aesthetic Intelligence, and part of the reason I was so excited about this aesthetic intelligence book is because the book itself is literally my aesthetic. I describe my personal aesthetic as Cloud City Bespin with pops of pastel, like rainbow pastel. Just like sparingly sprinkled throughout. So your style is more than just literally what type of clothes you like to wear or the type of decorating you like to have in your room. Your style is more about a reflection of who you are as a person. When will my reflection shine? And what shaped you into being the person that you are, and then how you share that with everybody else. And when you're really clear and confident on who you are as a person, it becomes a lot easier to share that with everybody else, and it's something that you can take a lot of pride in. You can really respect and love somebody and appreciate somebody's style, but it not be something that you personally would wear. Example, my friend Amber. We all love her. I really respect her style. I think she's got a very clear point of view on what she does, and she does a beautiful job with it. She's kind of like this vintage, classic, Disney-esque, like whimsical. She is in so many ways like this vintage, beautiful Snow White, and I love that. And I really appreciate it, but if I were to wear it, I would feel untrue to myself. You know who else's style I love? Renitra. If you guys don't know Renitra, you should also follow Renitra. She's one of the most beautiful, like most fashionable people. But if I were to wear some of the same things she does, I wouldn't feel like it's authentic to me because she's way more vintage inspired than I am. But like, I love everything that she posts and I love everything that she wears. And I think you really have a grasp on what your style is when you can appreciate other people's stuff and love it and respect it and don't feel the need to take it and copy it for yourself. Your style should just be based on what feels right and comfortable to you. One of the times that we humans tend to experiment with our style the most is when we're teenagers. I know when I was a teenager, my style was all over the place. I made some very questionable fashion choices. Okay, so we've got a little exercise here that I think is gonna help you start to pinpoint and really start to be able to envision what your personal style is. Question number one to ask yourself is, who are your main influences? Like, who are the people that helped shape you into who you are? And it could be anyone from relatives to maybe a musician that you really like. I know the author Pauline mentions that she actually finds that she wound up getting a lot of her own personal style. She found that it came a lot, elements of it from her grandmother. And the second you can start understanding why you like something, that is when you're able to start understanding and really be able to see and envision what your style is. Number 2 question to think about is when and where did you come of age is the way they describe it in the book. But where did you grow up? A lot of people feel very nostalgic for the things that they grew up around. And in other situations, if you had something that you very strongly disliked in your upbringing, a lot of times you will find it starts to shape your style in the opposite direction. Question number 3 to ask yourself ties in a lot with that. What was happening in that time and place when you were growing up, or maybe currently are growing up, that helped to shape you into the person that you are? Maybe things that you were really excited about. And question number 4 you should ask yourself is what things basically turned you off or you really didn't like. And I realized a lot of things about my personal style now are because of things that I didn't like, and kind of pushing back against that and gravitating towards the things that I found helped get me through times that were bad. Growing up, I basically, for lack of a better word, grew up in a cult. Religion, but taken to such an extreme that it was like way beyond that. Wasn't allowed to listen to almost any music unless it was a hymn or classical music. Had to wear skirts down practically to my ankles. I found that particularly like the school that I went to, I did not realize that I consciously did this. I realized I will not wear anything that follows the dress code of the school that I went to. If it follows it, I hate it. And it's not hard to break the dress code of that school. Another thing that was very core to like my growing up and growing up in that environment was my kind of escape that I loved probably more than anything was Star Wars. And I love anything that feels like it could be inside of Star Wars, but I didn't realize how much me finding my escape inside of Star Wars and feeling like that was what kind of got me through a lot of that. All of that brings me like so much happiness, and I would never have thought that it went that deep. I think those questions really start to get at the core of who you are as a person. While they do evolve, there's some things that still remain core to who you are that you can start to embody in some of your style. It helps you have this sense of you that doesn't just completely change depending on what the trends are, because personal style is not the same as what's currently fashionable. And I guess one thing to remember is this: there's no right or wrong choices when it comes to you choosing and expressing your personal style. The closest thing you can have is choosing not to care, because anti-fashion is in itself a statement, whether or not you want it to be. And I know people sometimes use the example of Steve Jobs, how he always wore the same thing because he didn't want to waste his time. When you think about it, that makes a bigger statement about you. So even if you ignore it, just realize that that in itself is a big statement. So we're gonna talk about now one of the biggest tools you have. That's literally like an assignment that you can do if you want to find your personal style, literally like what you wear, how you decorate, all of that. A mood board. Okay, I will admit I have not personally done a physical mood board. Most of my mood boards are actually Pinterest boards. I think with this one I actually am going to do a full mood board, and you can do one too. We can do one together. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram. There's 3 things that a mood board really helps with. First of all, it forces you to make choices and trade-offs. We were talking a little bit earlier about curation, and one of the biggest things about finding your personal style is knowing how to prioritize things and knowing what things not to include. So if you have a mood board with a limited amount of space, you can only have so many things on it. Number 2, it makes you think about how all of the pieces come together, and maybe take like a piece of fabric and have it next to like a main central picture, and see how they like play together and move them around and overlap and see how it fits together, because it's not just a whole bunch of things in isolation, a lot of different pictures. It's how it all fits together. And a mood board lets you do that. And number 3 with your mood board, it lets you fit those together in a way that allows you to express the emotions that you feel with it. And I know that sounds a little hokey, like the mood board is gonna let me express emotions. Yes, because when you think about it, this board is supposed to be something that you think about what things that shaped you as a human and made you who you are, and things that represent that. And if it's not something that evokes some sort of an emotion in you, it's not gonna be something that you really want to have as part of like your core personal style. Very, very Marie Kondo. If it's not sparking that joy, you can get rid of it. And you can also see very clearly why it's maybe sparking joy and why it fits in with what you want. And so here are 3 steps to creating your mood board. The first step is to collect all of your inspiration and ideas and your photos. It's great because you can have things with different textures, like fabrics or pieces of, I don't know, plastic, if you really like plastic. I don't know, different things that you can actually feel with your hands. Even things like words or phrases that are really important to you and you want to be part of your personal style. You can just collect all of those things. Number 2 is to edit, which basically means you're gonna decide what stays and what goes. Having it there in front of you allows you to see, okay, when I see this here with everything else, does it go or should I get rid of it? Which things are the most important? It allows you to prioritize and choose what to keep. And finally, step number 3 of creating your mood board, placement, is basically how does everything fit together? And that's when you can start to see where all the different pieces go, what looks good, where, and how it all fits together to tell a story. Because your life, you have your life story, and your personal style is a way of expressing that. The key to a good mood board is something that tells a good, clear story. If somebody looks at it, they can see, maybe start to see what that story is. We have more guidelines. We have 7 guidelines. We have a lot of numbered things in this in this video today, but 7 guidelines from Pauline's little book here that are gonna help us make the best mood board that we can. Number 1 is pick your theme or objective or just like the main piece and just place it front and center. I literally, when I make my mood board, will probably make the middle piece a picture of an interior shot of Cloud City.
Everyone's invited, of course.
And so just have that, make sure that is front and center so you can kind of see everything else as it's gonna fit into it. Number 2 is think of yourself as a curator. But the way I like to think of this is Trader Joe's. Have you ever been to Trader Joe's? The way they describe Trader Joe's is that everything is curated. Like, it's not just a regular grocery store. Everything is hand selected, and you can tell like care went into choosing things very specifically. So if you go into it with this mindset, like I'm a curator, what am I filling my Trader Joe's with? Number 3 is to take pictures or incorporate pictures, but make sure you're using things that are more like physical and touchy, and is it tactile? Tactile is the word, I think. You want to use as many of your senses as possible. And if you can feel things, hey, if you even have a scent that you really like, you could spray it on. I think that's a great idea. She did not mention in the book, but I love the idea of that. Number 4 is to include words and phrases. This is something that if I was thinking of a mood board, I probably wouldn't have thought of to include, but when I was thinking about it, I was like, that's actually really powerful. What are things that are core to me that I want to show in all aspects of my life and be surrounded with? Number 5, I thought was a really interesting guideline. Arrange the board and make the board as though it's like a visual aid if you're gonna like give a class presentation or tell a story. But if you think of it like that, it will help you make it more meaningful and purposeful. Number 6 is something we've talked about. Aim for it to spark an emotion, not just in yourself actually, but in other people, and you can even test it on them. If you show it to somebody, be like, hey, how does this make you feel? And you can start to see how effective it is, and it might help you in your curation process. And finally, number 7, I feel like this is a great thing to add as a guideline for almost anything of this creative sort of nature, is to have fun with it and let it evolve naturally and just grow into its own thing. You don't have to be so rigid with it and be like guideline, rule. Just let it grow into whatever feels right for you, because ultimately like what this is all about. That was a lot. That was a lot. So hopefully this helps you start to be able to define and understand what your personal style is. And now there's like so many things to discuss about that. So I want to hear lots and lots from you guys in the comments. Specifically, like I'm happy to hear about any of your thoughts about this because I feel like we could go a lot of ways. But specifically, I want to hear what is something that you would put on your mood board. So tell me below. I'm gonna be reading and commenting, replying. Anyways, if you guys want to see more videos like this, remember to subscribe. And we put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So ring the little bell if you want those to come right to you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is my awkward waving. Goodbye. Today we're about to talk about. And so that's what we're gonna do. Whoa. I also should turn my phone on silent. Sorry, Maggie. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I think that's a full sentence. Cookie starts with C. Got other Disney YouTuber examples here. I'll really bounce. This is Disney YouTuber. This is Sarah's sign language.
That's like Tigger.
Yes, it is Tigger. T-I-double-G of creating a mood purposeful. Oh my goodness, there's a new episode of Tangle the series, and Pascal makes a noise like ah!